Welcome to 9wax TV, welcome to the cabin of Little Irish, where there shall be no action today. I've bought a load of parts of this car that I'm going to cover in another episode. Today it's all about other cars, specifically the best models to buy for 2024. We look at this every year. It's always a popular video. People like to know what's going on, what trends we're about to stumble across in the Porsche marketplace. Now, we're not covering the marketplace generally. We've already done that on an episode of 9wax Radio podcast. Today, we're just intent on focusing on the models that we think are going to be a decent place to put some money this year for a variety of reasons. I'm going to split this down to three categories, okay? That's Porsches up to 50k, Porsches between 50k and £1 and 100 grand, and then 101 grand and that quid plus. Now, what do we mean by the cars to buy? Well, look, as we know, the market moves, it's constantly moving over the last 12 months. And that throws up different permutations where cars all of a sudden look good value or perhaps less good value in comparison to other models. And what these experts are going to be doing is looking at that marketplace in every nook and cranny and working out, well, look, okay, with all of these fluctuations in mind, where's a good place for you to put your money? We're going to speak to 5 experts from 3 different independent Porsche specialists. We're going to speak to Chris from Harbour Cars. We're going to speak to William and Philip from Raby Porsche. First of all, though, we're going to speak to Jamie and Jason from Paragon Porsche.
I mean, there's a massive choice in that area, isn't there? Because you've got, you know, going back to 997 Gen 1 and then also 981 Cayman and Boxster, which all fit into that category as sort of like almost becoming modern classics, but daily drivers if you want them to be as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough to drive 997S, a Gen 1 car, in this morning, and just a reawakening. I'd forgotten quite how much I enjoyed the cars. If you can buy a car like that, and it's going to be 35, 36k or something like that, isn't it? I mean, what a 911. It feels magnificent. It's the right size. I mean, I'm driving down roads pretty narrow, and this thing fits, and it's alive. And I was literally pottering along this morning, basically because I had no money and there was no fuel in it. And so I was going for my economy run, but I was just driving it on the Talk, and it's just immediately responsive. It was like everything that I want from a 911, and it was so capable. Otherwise, if you can get one, a 996 turbo.
Well, 996 and 997 turbo are just about in those.
To buy a flagship Mexican engine car, a modern classic, overused term and all that sort of stuff. I can't come up with anything original. Look at me, I'm 53. It's a hell of a lot of car. If it's, again, get the real thing, don't get the wrong one. It costs too much to make it right, but get the right one. And I mean, it does so much.
Well, I think also we talk about the 911 and the flagship cars and that, but also going back to last of the natural aspirated version of the 981 Cayman and Boxster. I mean, what a car they are as well.
Yeah. So category 2 is from £50,000 and a penny up to 100k. There's a load of choice in there again.
Oh yeah.
Where are you?
It's massive. Right slap bang in the middle of that value at the moment. A Turbo S 997, a very rare car. It does everything, and it's 80k. It should be as reliable as the latest car. It does 98% of a latest Turbo S. It will do whatever you want. If you want to use it every day, it will do it. If you want to go across Europe, it will do it. It'll do it brilliantly. If you want to absolutely hurl it around and press the mad button, you know, it's lively.
997 GTS, we thought fitted into that sort of category as well, didn't it? Yeah, I mean, they're great. Last of the end of that line of cars. And
special car, you know, made for a short period of time again. Right size, it's that, you know, 997 size. If you're lucky enough to be able to afford one of those cars, it gives you a great idea as to where things are going to go in the future with that, you know, the platforms that came after. It gives you character from before.
You said something on a previous video and I thought it was quite profound, and you said those cars, 996.1 GT3, I think should be and will be in the future valued and thought of alongside the car behind you, 964 RS. I guess that's something you're still standing by.
Yeah, 100%.
It's just so special. It's got all this stuff behind it, and it's the start of this whole story again, you know, the whole GT3 thing, which rightly has got a buzz about it. it's becoming a bona fide classic car by most definitions, I think. It's not as much as a really special Carrera 2 964 or whatever, these days. And love them, really do, but that's super low numbers. Since I've been banging on about them, they have actually gone up by quite a chunk. So I am being proven right, but pretty slowly. But I will keep. I'm going to keep going.
At some point, one of our lucky customers that buys one will be that person where all of a sudden they do take a big jump. And hopefully they'll come and look after me and Jay.
Yeah. I guess that's got to be like your number one then for that category.
Yeah, although we were talking about 993s the other day in that category, they've been a little bit left behind at the moment, haven't they?
Last of the air-cooled car and all the rest of it, and it's been in the shadow really of the whole excitement around 964 for a long time now. I think they will actually make a jump, and I think that probably will be 24. In fact, there's signs of that already because, so there's been some guys that sold some wide-body cars which have made big numbers. The difference between those and the standard body car, in terms of pricing, is way too big.
I'll push us on to that top category now then. So it's kind of carte blanche, 100k plus. Where do you think, first and foremost, people have got to be looking?
Again, there's such a broad range of cars in that bracket. Our first one that came to mind was 996 GT3 RS, really, wasn't it?
Such a rare car. If you think at a global scale, there were 682, and there's probably 300, maybe 400 bona fide things that haven't had an argument with the Marmco. If I just wanted one car for a fix, driving fix.
That's the ultimate thing.
For me, it's probably it. Being that rare, and they've gone up by a lot, but they were massively undervalued. Hugely, ridiculously, in hindsight, and we all look back on those going, oh God, why?
Didn't we have two in stock at one point, and they were £55,000 retail, weren't they?
Oh my God.
No, it's worse than that, mate.
Yeah.
Away from 996 RS, is there anything else?
The one which we haven't mentioned, they're still less than half off the money of a 27 RS.
Yeah.
We should mention Carrera GT, of course. If you're in that world, it's ultimate supercar. They've had a big step over the last couple of years. We'll see whether they've plateaued for a bit. I think maybe so, but in the fullness of time, those they will go again.
Chuff for your insights. So thank you, Jamie and Jason.
Thank you, Lee.
Paragon.
Thank you. Great to see you.
Thanks for coming to see us. It's cool. It's all good. Cheers.
That's the views of Jamie and Jason. There's a lot of cars in there, which is all super positive stuff. Next, then, we'll turn to Phil and Will from Philip Raby to get their take on the cars to buy for 2024. Beginning with best value for up to 50k.
The first one I thought about was the 991, because you can buy 991s for well under 50k now, which is actually quite good news. For me, in some ways, it's not a true 911. It's a bit bigger and more sophisticated than other 911s. But there's a market out there. People are maybe being used to driving a fairly new BMW or something. They're looking for a 911, and a 991 is just that bit more modern than the 997.
And you would still have it as a daily driver probably over a 999, even though a 997 probably does have slightly truer, sticks to the origins a bit better, but I think you'd still choose a 991 as a daily driver. It's a lot of car for the money.
And there's a lot out there to choose from.
Yeah. If you can get a manual one, I think a manual 991, they might be a bit tricky on the 50 grand. I think they, probably are knocking under there now. I'd have to double check, but a manual 991 I think is quite a cool. There's not a lot out there.
Having said that, PDK is great as an everyday driver.
Is there anything else in that category?
912. We've recently sold one actually, and it really opened my eyes to them. I've not really touched them that much before, but actually, what an awesome car for, ours sold for a lot, under 50. And if you want a short wheelbase 911, but they're dear now,
Twice the price.
Yeah, at least twice the price. You're sort of starting at about 90 grand really for a short wheelbase car. You get the looks, you get the character, and arguably in some ways better handling in the 912, and it feels fun, it feels light, it's a bit different. I think they're undervalued, It's got the sex appeal of the short wheelbase. People look at it and think, wow, that's cool, it's not, and actually almost you see more 911s on the road than 912s.
Anything else in that category? Or
I still stick to, obviously, I know we touched on it last year, but I still think the Cayman R is a cracking car. For the money that, I was hoping that after I'd said what I said last year, I thought it'd be up a bit this year, with all throwing my Porsche weight around. High 30s for a GT style car, basically.
We'll move on to category 2, so that's 50k and a pound, up to 100k.
Yeah.
Where are you guys looking at? You said you got a bombshell for this category.
I've got a bombshell, and okay, we'll start with it. It's the Taycan.
Okay.
Oh,
You've got
okay.
the entire internet.
Yeah.
So,
I know that the Taycan obviously has plummeted. The reason being, everyone's got their tax rebates now. They've come to the end of their lease, so there's near knocking the door of 700 cars on the market at the moment. And if you looked 8 months ago, they wouldn't have been anywhere near that. It's because it's that period of from when they first came out and they were first Porsche flying them out the door. Everyone's got their money back from the tax rebate. They've come to the end of their 1 year lease or 2 year, whatever. So the market is absolutely flooded. It won't be like that forever. And actually, there are some in the 50s and 60s. Name me a car that you can get more car than that for 50, 60 grand. You can't, not of that age anyway. So actually I know they've taken a pretty hard tumble, but they're just not going to go down anymore. They can't, because then you've got the Audi e-tron to sort of sit alongside. If they go down any more, they'll be the same price as the Audi e-tron. Everyone's looking at them now going, oh my God, poor people who bought that a year ago for 100 grand have just thrown 40 grand out the window. But actually they're all smiling because they've got most of that back in their tax rebate anyway. So that they've served that purpose, and that's why people are almost not too worried to be letting them go for less money. But actually, if you buy one now, they can't drop anymore.
I think Will's got a brilliant argument there, because I think he's right. And also, so many cities in the UK are introducing ULEZ zones. Yeah. So if you live in a city or you travel into a city, you're going to be looking for an electric car.
Moving maybe back into the enthusiast sphere, dare I say.
Yeah, sorry.
Anything else in that category that you wish to highlight?
996 GT3, we keep talking about this. They're just so undervalued. There's a proper analogue GT3. I think it's far more fun than a 991 GT3. Am I allowed to say that? It's got a Mezco engine, a proper manual gearbox, just brilliant.
I agree. I don't know why they're still sitting where they are. And there's been a bit of a hankering for the Gen 1s. I'm going to get probably shut down for saying this, but I think the Gen 2 is arguably more of a driver's car.
I think it's a better car around the Gen 2. I know you're not allowed to say that.
No, you're not.
But the Gen 1's got the rarity on its side. 964s, I know we've had this discussion before. They're like hen's teeth these days. And they're great cars. It's a rawer drive than a 993. It's got the classic 911 looks, and it's a lot rarer than a 993. And I think they're going to keep going up in value.
A C2 manual 964 coupe, which is still under 100 comfortably, but I don't think will be for forever.
In the 100k plus category.
Yeah.
Whereabouts are you going? Where are you telling people this?
I didn't get that far, and Phil's losing his memory. So
Thanks, Will. Will's still saving up for the 100k plus. 997 Sport Classic has always been one of my favourites. I know it drives just like a GTS, but it's the look of it, that beautiful retro interior, and I think it's ridiculous that Porsche put all that money into putting that double bubble roof, which you can't even see. But how cool is that? It's a lovely car. When I first drove one, I thought, this is amazing. It's not just about the driving, it's the whole look of it and the experience and sense of occasion when you're in it.
yeah, I don't think you're saying that it's going to go to the moon price-wise. They're already very strong. That's certainly not, you're not going to lose any money on them. They are rare. But for the Sport Classic, it's just if you can, buy one to own one, because
only to use
yeah.
Anything else?
964 RS 3.8, which I can't remember the last time I saw one, but what a car. I mean, the 3.8, I think, Lee, you once said that the 964 RS is the easiest RS to recreate. And you're right, actually, I never thought about that. But the 3.8 RS is another animal altogether. And it kind of goes against what I normally say, because it's wide-bodied. But that engine is amazing.
Anything else you want to add in there?
Well, the only thing I added, which is probably, you may not, I don't know if you want to include this or not, but I would say don't buy a 992 for over 100 grand. I think they're all going to drop in value because there's so many out there. I mean, nothing wrong with them, they're great cars. But I say that's, if you're looking at something to hold its money, don't buy a 992.
Interesting views from the guys there, particularly in regards to the Taycan, and everybody else is poo-pooing those at the moment. Philip and Will think very differently. On to our last expert for Porsches to buy in 2024. We're going to speak to Chris at Harbour Cars, and the first question I asked him is, which is the best Porsche to buy for up to 50k?
Looking ahead and seeing what the pattern's been for the last year, comfortably say 997, Generation 2. Non-turbos, so just C2, C2Ss, but the coupe version, PDK or manual. So both very desirable at the moment, 2s and 4s. So I think just Gen 2, 997 Carrera, to stick within budget. They're amazing, and they've got such an iconic look as well. It's everything you need, modern drive, harks back to the silhouette of the old stuff, and size-wise, they're a lot smaller than what you see in the 991s. Servicing-wise, really very straightforward to look after. So yeah, they're a good buy. We'll jump ahead a few years and Cayman 981 GTS. If you can get a manual for that budget, they're always a really popular car, amazing car for the money. Drivable sound, you can track them, actual physical road use, brilliant all-round car. But very small numbers of them readily available at any time.
So just focusing on that manual scenario, is that just you're kind of dialing into like the purest desirability?
The manual GTS probably is one of the cars, up there with the manual 981S as well, that we get a lot of inquiries for, and they sell very quickly. I think the last one we had actually sold before we even had a chance to market it. We had a guy looking for a particular spec. We have a following for manuals, but PDK as well, certainly not ruled out. They do sell very well. I'm a massive fan of the PDK GTS. I think it's a great all-round car. You can sit in traffic with it.
Any other candidates in that, or you're happy with your lot?
That's all I've narrowed down to.
Okay.
To be relatively safe for 24.
Let's go on to category 2, so that's between 50,000 and a pound up to 100,000.
There's a very broad spectrum to look at in that price bracket. So first one we'd rolled into the bracket would be the 981 Cayman GT4. Very limited numbers. They seem to, particularly over the last year, they've leveled. They're mechanically a fantastic car, engineering marvel for the Cayman, the car they never said they built. The prices have been very solid, for the last year. Look at where they are value-wise, and they're not a million miles away from 718 GTS 4 litres, and even top-end 981 GTSs can command over 50, and you're getting into sort of high 60s for GT4s, about mid if you go a little bit higher on the mileage with them. So, yeah, they represent a really good buy at the moment. And then the next one would be the 991 Gen 1 Turbo Coupe. That just such a lot of car for the money. When you look at the price point they're at, compare that to where you are with the 991 Gen 2 C2S, for argument's sake, the leap in cars and ownership, 911 Turbo through to 911 C2S, underrated is probably the wrong word, but overlooked car, I think. It's not just the S, it's the normal turbo as well.
£1,000 plus, so
Yeah.
This is real carte blanche, isn't it?
This is, I mean, we've had a lot of fun trying to work out where it would be. And there's a lot going on in the market at the moment with GT cars in particular, because everyone would default to a GT car and say, GT3 RS or something along those lines. And it's a bit of a safe answer, I think is probably the way I'm going to say it. But 997 GT2 RS. It's, poster car for particularly me. It's manual, over 600 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, turbocharged 911. What more do you want in a 997 body? So, but, very limited production numbers. They've kind of values, they sort of stagnated for a little bit, and now they have gone up again. They're a 12-year-old car now, I think, from memory.
Yeah,
so they're a car that has certainly held their own. But it is, as you mentioned earlier, the fastest 911 turbo.
Fastest manual.
Manual 911 turbo. Yeah. So it's a unique car in that right, and the fact it is manual only, and you can't have PDK. You could put Carrera GTs, 959s, all sorts of stuff into that bracket. But I think even taking those into account, I'd probably, if it was my 100 grand, I probably would, or over 100 grand, I probably would say GT2 RS.
Chris at Harbour Cars, thank you very much for your time.
No worries. You're very welcome. Thanks for coming.
That's the views of our experts. Lots of different ideas put across in there. Some crossover, 996 GT3. That seems to be the overall theme among our specialists, is when it comes to investment, just play it super, super safe at the moment. Otherwise, it's all about value for money. And that should be great news to the likes of you and I, enthusiasts that like to buy these cars to drive them. Okay? I hope you found the insight useful. Thanks to the guys from Paragon Porsche, Harbour Cars and Philip Raby Porsche for their expertise and insight. And we'll see you on another video soon.